Hello, guys. This is Olive.K, and today I want to talk about my personal food diet and why I choose not to eat meat and cheese or meat and dairy in general. So let's go. Um, so to start with, why do I choose not to eat meat or dairy? Um, so here it goes. I want to say almost 3 years ago, I noticed that, well, my weight is actually pretty low for my height. And I was about the same height, or sorry, the same weight about 3 years ago. So hardly anything's changed since my diet's changed, other than the fact that it's actually more difficult to gain weight without um, meat, dairy. Um, so I figure I try to walk you through my decision making process. Okay, here it goes. I noticed that it was difficult to regulate my emotions. And emotions are typically regulated by hormones, I believe, right? And hormones you can get from eating certain types of foods. Um, and I had just the thought of, hey, let me just take a little break from meat and dairy. I tell myself that, right? Because even though I know I can live the rest of my life without meat or dairy, you can never say forever. You can't say forever. Um, but in my case, I gave up willing. I willingly gave up meat and dairy without anyone forcing me to. Okay, trust me. If you live in the United States of America, you know as well as I do that most people consume meat and dairy every single day. Every single day. I want you to name one person that you know that isn't a vegan that has like a veggie Monday or something. You know what I mean? Like it rarely happens to where you hear about Americans just happening to value other types of foods, right? So it is actually annoying to know that the only thing keeping me on this path of avoiding meat and dairy is me. It's a little annoying, but it's okay. I hear that vegan food is expensive, and I do agree it can be expensive when you go out to restaurants. The thing is, what I hate to say this, but it needs to be said for you guys to listen and understand. The term vegan for restaurants is simply a marketing term. It's an excuse to charge more money for the same food. Now, when you look at the mechanical labor of turning vegetables, fruits into meals, it is not nearly as high as meat and dairy. But for some reason, restaurants love to charge extra for that little vegan term that you slap on. You slap vegan next to your cheeseburger, and suddenly it costs closer to $20. Meanwhile, I could walk into McDonald's right now and get two meat and cheese sandwiches for like $4 and some change. It's ridiculous. The economics, it just bothers me deeply, and I understand where it comes from. It comes from the fact that the United States of America gives billions of dollars every year to the meat and dairy industry, artificially cheapening the cost of meat and dairy at the local grocery store, right? For example, how much money do you think right now a pound of hamburger beef, 1 pound of hamburger beef costs? I want you to do me a favor, okay? I want you to guess how much one single pound of hamburger beef is without US agricultural subsidies. Okay? Try and guess that. All right? And then ask yourself, would you be willing to pay that cost just to say that the government isn't helping you out in life? I know what types of people Americans are. Some of them honestly believe that their success was derived from their own abilities and no one else. They set up the highway system. They set up kilometers and kilometers of the power grid, right? They set up the plumbing, including the water and the sewage. They did all of that stuff by themselves magically with no help from anyone over the past tens, if not hundreds of years of progress here in this nation. But they still think like, oh yeah, yeah, I did everything on my own. I had no help whatsoever. I was born, right? I was born and I punched the doctor and said, "Don't you help me, woman." sorry, sorry. I just this weird, rugged individualism that Americans seem to be obsessed with. It's a fantasy, okay? It's an absolute fantasy. Look, if I was talking to someone who is worth, let's say, six figures, right? Like 100,000 or more, right? I could more or less say, yeah, it's kind of on you. Okay, it's kind of on you to look out for yourself in certain situations, right? But if you're one of those many people out there who are working and you're not getting paid a lot, obviously the average American makes less than six figures. So you are struggling, okay? You're probably paying like a third of your income on housing. That stat is like the average for the United States. Most Americans spend up to a third of their income on just housing alone. So it's just like annoying. It's very frustrating. I thought of a business idea. Um, I want to say a couple months ago while I was passing by a local community garden, and I was talking to the person who runs it, and then it occurred to me, guys, community gardens are extremely profitable. Okay, like I believe it's like every dollar you invest into a community garden brings back like $6, right, in revenue, right? I believe it's sorry, revenue. Yes, $1 invested equals $6. I could get the math wrong, but my point is to say that it is very worth it for me if I want to start my own business. I would think about starting a community garden. There's so much profit to be had, but as a side effect, hear me out, guys. As a side effect of running a community garden within an area called a food desert, which, if you don't know what a food desert is, oh, thank God, right? Anyways, a food desert is an area, right? It's an area typically in a metropolitan area or a rural town where basically affordable fresh foods are not immediately available to the people who live there. That's why it's called a food desert. It's because the fresh food is scarce. And unfortunately, those food deserts are populated with fast food restaurants, convenience stores, like depending on where you live, you might call it a bodega, you might call it a corner store, you might call it a liquor store, it doesn't matter. Basically, the most unhealthy foods imaginable are available to poor people. And it doesn't have to be this way. And my solution, if I had the capital, if I was able to take out like a loan, a business loan, I would consider, like I said, guys, a community garden located in direct directly inside a food desert area. That would probably net the most profit. Think about it, okay, guys? By very nature, a food desert doesn't have readily available fresh fruits and vegetables, for example. So when you are the only game in town, I could imagine a lot of people would be coming your way, and they would be more than happy to do business with you. So there's my business pitch. I may try to do more research on it to see, is it possible to get like a loan or a grant or a grant and a loan. Look at the economics of setting up an annual subscription service to a community garden. From what I can tell, it is very profitable, but it is not easy at the same time. Starting and running a business is not easy, and I will admit to you that I'm not the greatest fan of capitalism, But if I can use capitalism to help the greatest number of people possible, then I could try to make that compromise. So there's that. Also, secretly and selfishly, owning a food garden would actually help teach me how to manage resources in a more responsible manner. And it would also improve my diet considerably, not just the people that are paying me annual fees. So there you go. Guys, one more thing before I go. Your diet affects not just your physical health, your diet affects your mental health. Okay? So if we really care about mental health, we need to address our food diet. We need to ask why we consume so much meat and dairy on a daily basis. Now, do not mistake this for me trying to force you, the viewer, to be a vegan or vegetarian. You can still enjoy a cheeseburger or steak. But what I'm trying to say is, can you be a little bit more intelligent about it? Can you think about it first? All right. That's all there is to it. I'm done here. I'm going to gonna go walk by a dozen different restaurants serving the same meat and cheese slop, washed down with who knows some kind of dairy drink. I'm gonna be passing all those restaurants, getting mad because it. If you ask me, it smells good. It really does. After years and years of eating this stuff growing up, I can't get rid. I cannot lie to you and say, "Oh, a double cheeseburger smells bad." It smells incredible. It's like intoxicating, if anything. And this is coming from someone who hasn't eaten, who has not had a actual double cheeseburger in several years, like 3 years. Like I said, um, I will say that I did cheat. I did cheat, and I did have two chicken sandwiches. There you go. In the span of 3 years, I had two chicken sandwiches, and it's for a video. Okay, once you check out my channel's video list, okay, look it up, or sorry, look into my library and look for the one time I posted about a chicken sandwich in the past couple of years. Okay, I know there's an older one like KFC and Watermelon Maine, but that was long before I ever kicked the curb of eating meat and cheese. But yeah, that's all there is to it. I'm gonna go. It's almost 13 minutes. Goodbye. I'm going to be streaming some video games tonight. Hopefully, you can catch me there. See you later.